Hey guys, just wanted to do a video on IL2. I just realized that I haven't done an IL2 video in a little bit of time, and taking it back to the original IL2 Sturmovick. Now, this was the aircraft that started it all, pretty much. And I remember hearing about IL2 probably in 2006, 2005 or so. Somebody had said, you know, if you're looking for realistic physics and flight model, you might want to check out IL2. And I hadn't, I never really, played it. The sim came out in 2001. November 18th was when the demo came out, and immediately it was praised by the flight sim community as having some of the best flight modeling. And for those of you that don't know, FM or flight modeling is just how the aircraft handles, as well as probably the best physics engine and damage modeling engine that had ever existed in the flight simulator. To this day, I don't think anything rivals IL2. For instance, if you get hit with a missile in like Jane's F-18 or even BMS, your aircraft goes on fire and you might see some black smoke or something. IL2 modeled different calibers. So let's say our wing here, if you got hit by a smaller caliber round, you'd see little pinholes, popping through there. If you got hit by a huge cannon round, like a 20mm or something, it might blow the whole wing off, or you might see a huge hole in the wing. And that's modeled all over the aircraft. It can knock off ailerons, it can knock off flaps, half your rudder, your empennage could be blown off, your engine leaks oil and coolant, radiator fluid. Your tires can bust if you hit the ground too hard. People don't really realize how sophisticated the physics model is in this engine. Not only that, but if you hit the ground too hard or in a weird aspect, you're going to roll the aircraft, you'll break things apart as you roll on the ground. So the physics engine really is set this sim apart. So what we'll do here is we'll do a quick start, and this is a big disappointment for a lot of flight sim fans. Where's the clickable cockpit? You can't click on anything. You move the mouse and it doesn't do anything. It's pretty much a Shift E or Control E FSX start. But that's only like 1% of the sim. Alright, you don't have a complicated start like you do in other flight sims, so that's a big disappointment. Ideally we'd like to have the whole thing. We'd like to have the complicated startup, ramp start, throwing all the switches on and everything. But here's what you do have in IL2, and I've covered this in other videos, I'll just do it again. You have a throttle system, of course, just the regular throttle. Then you also have prop control. A lot of people don't realize that if you set the flight model to realistic, you can control the prop pitch, right? And you also have mixture. Alright, these are all real-world levers that you use in a real aircraft, a complicated aircraft. So we'll throw the mixture on 120% and full rich, beyond full rich, 100% pitch on the prop, and I'll go ahead and lock the tail wheel. We'll do a little takeoff here. So this is the original IL2, and again, you got 6 degrees of freedom here. We'll get rolling and we'll let the tail wheel come down. Left rudder here, keep in mind. You can see just the physics of the aircraft at full power here. And we'll retract the gear. See the flames coming out of the engine there, and we'll retract the flaps fully. Alright, so there you can see some some needle shaking. I mean, some of that stuff in FSX is revolutionary, and that's really because we're experiencing some turbulence here, so we'll keep climbing up out of this stuff. Hopefully get into some nice weather. And look at the clouds. I mean, Rex has amazing clouds, don't get me wrong, for FSX. Actually, I think the sky colors is what I really enjoy about Rex. But these clouds, they're volumetric, and they're some of the most realistic looking clouds. I'm using the HSFX. This is the 6.11 version, and you can see the terrain. I mean, that's really good looking terrain for a sim that is, 14 years old now? 13 years old? The amount of maps and theaters for this sim are absolutely mind-boggling. And pretty much any World War II scenario that you can think of, whether it's seaplanes or fighters or bombers, you can recreate in IL2. It's just the ultimate World War II sim, and nothing has touched even come close to what the capabilities of what it can do. The amount of add-on aircraft, the theaters. If you like carrier operations, you can do that. You want to jump in a B-17 and use the Norton bomb sight to accurately deliver bombs, the way they actually did it, you can do that. You want to fly, the big deal about FSX is the shared cockpit, right? There's only a few aircraft that it actually worked in, but in IL2, they were doing that back in 2001. One guy could be a gunner, the other guy, in the B-17, you got the side gunners, the bottom gunner, the top turret gunner, you got the navigator. You got the pilot and the co-pilot, and you could do all of that. So it is really quite remarkable the amount of things that you could do with IL2. And I remember when I first played the sim, I was blown away by the physics. You look at like DCS or BMS, and you see like how the aircraft moves through the air, and just it just kind of has a feeling of flight. And if you've ever flown a real aircraft, you can tell that the air has pockets in it. It's moving. It's a fluid. It's like a dynamic fluid that's constantly moving and shifting. Variations in heating and wind and turbulence. And so a lot of times see my engine's overheating, I'll go ahead and open the radiator up to full open, and I'll bring the RPM back to 90. Bring the power back to about 70. And there's the temperature right down there. Next to that's the fuel gauge. But you can see, the temperature went up because, one, I was running the engine full blast. Number two, I didn't have my radiator open, and I bring my pitch back. These are all things that you do in a real aircraft to cool the engine down. P-51, high performance aircraft. This engine, thankfully this aircraft's very forgiving, and that's why it was such a hit with the Russians. Not to mention it was a tank killer, saved the troops on the ground, and they could also, get some air-to-air kills if it needed to. Not very maneuverable, but it's very reliable and dependable. I think it's still the most widely produced aircraft ever made to this date. I'm not sure about that, but you guys can fix that quote if I get it wrong. So here we're going to go attack a bombing range. Hopefully I have enough time in this video here. And I guess the purpose of this video is just to let you know how much I love IL2 and how much it really was revolutionary and still is. This thing is still being updated. We're up to 4.12 with Team Dalados, and we're up to HSFX 7.0. I'll probably upgrade sometime soon with that. But yeah, it's really unmatched in its capability. Alright, let's go find some ground targets here if we can. And this is literally the first mission of the IL2 campaign. I went into the mission folder and I always wondered, because I never actually finished it. It's one of those sims that you just kind of pick up and play, and I don't know how many people actually finished the IL2 campaign, the original. But there's something like 130 plus missions just for the IL2. And it really, it kind of looks at the Russian war, the Russian front in World War II, and what the IL2 did. Alright, so you're probably wondering, why am I using this little icon indicator? I'll tell you exactly why. I'm a hardcore realist, like anybody else. Flight sim community for the most part. We're rivet counters, we like everything to be perfect. The air and the paint scheme's got to be right. Well, the reason I use icons is that I don't have time to sit down and study maps. So an IL2 pilot, one, he would be familiar with his own hometown, right? He'd know, oh, that's this river, that's my grandma lives down there. So essentially, not only would he be familiar with his hometown, but he'd also study maps. These guys would live in the war. They would study the maps. They would know where the roads were, what cities were being taken, where the German tanks were advancing. So me, just looking around, I easily get lost. Everything looks the same to me. There's no distinguishable, icons of landmarks that I could use. I guess if I did this enough, I could actually tell where I was right now, but